Hey, how y'all doing? Thanks for tuning in to the Real Rap Radio Show. I'm your host, Walil Archer on Downtown Hot Radio. I'm a special guest with me, Mason. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. I'm doing awesome. We're going to talk about your podcast. So, how you like having a podcast show?
Um, I like it because it provides interesting clarity, audience feedback, and special guest interaction. I really like interviewing with people, talking with them, carry a conversation. That's kind of what the basis of the podcast was: family friendly, casual conversation, conversational style, and just go from there.
And then, how did you get started?
I got started when I got the idea to do live streaming on my old blogs from MC Anime. I took an old blog article, put it into a live stream. There's about 17. It didn't really work out because there's a lot more work to do for the PowerPoint presentation. I was using a webcam to actually, share my screen, record it, and do it for Facebook Live. So I learned that during a podcast setup, you don't have to do video, and you can be very free verse and improv with the script.
Gotcha. So, let's talk about it. How long have you been doing it?
I've been doing it over a year. I've done over at least 120 episodes, and it's been great.
Over 120 episodes. While we talking about your episodes, where can people tune into it at?
People can tune in it on all the podcast directories: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. We're going to have YouTube soon, but that's on the backlog because everything has to be converted to video content. And then you can also find us at www.mcanimepodcast.com, and we're also on Patreon if you want to support us there.
And how do you select your guests to be on your show?
A lot of times I select guests through podcast networking sites to find guests to podcasters as guests. Uh, you know, freelance agencies is another good one. Also, sometimes you can do people around you like friends. Also, you can also network on social media with people that may follow your podcast. So
And
there's
what do you
different ways
do?
to do it.
What do you do when you have a guest that want to be a guest, but then they get shy and you pulling teeth to get them to talk? How do you handle that?
There's a couple ways that I do it. The main way that I do that they're shy, they're not giving enough conversation. I start asking out more follow-up questions because then I make them feel like they're involved. So it breaks down the shyness a little bit.
Good strategy. Good strategy. Now tell us one of your podcast shows that you'll always remember, whether it was exciting or unique.
I think one exciting podcast that I did. So many of them. The 100th episode that I did was Entertainment Scavenger Hunt. I had 3 contestants: my co-host, a her friend, and my cover arts designer friend, who came in basically test the knowledge of cross-platform consumption of media, radio, TV shows, music, poems, books, anything that applied to those categories. People will be guessing. So let's just say balloons, sneakers, and gum. Those 3 random categories put together, you're supposed to use your knowledge of consumption of media to actually be able to answer the question that best fits it. It's not a right or wrong answer because it's how you resonate with those categories that you think it applies.
Now, have you seen any improvements from when you first started into where you're at now at the 120th episode?
A lot of times I've been more organized. I diversify my content, so now with diversifying my content and making every social media uniform, my content has got a lot better. I've also added a professional, an amateur editor on the team as well. My cover art has improved. My dialect with my co-host, I finally found someone that can do it with me. And then, I have good featured speakers that come on that also do good correspondence with me. And then I'm also getting better at more professional guest speakers. So that all works in combination.
Awesome. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
So, you're welcome. So for 2023, what would you say some of your goals are for your show?
2023, the goals that I have is keep trying to grow it to as much as I can. Get the YouTube initiative launched. Use the reactive images for the audio files with the audio wavelength being interactive, so it can be converted to video format. And then also MC Anime After Night is another program I'm gonna try to do behind a paywall with premium content. So that's the goals.
Nice. Now, any fun fact or anything you want to share with the listeners that I have asked so far?
Let's see. MC Anime After Night is an interesting concept because it takes the non-friendly material and puts it in the PG-13 plus category, and actually it's a free-range talk, and it's behind that paywall that I'm going to launch on potentially OnlyFans.
Awesome. Now, as podcasts continue to grow, and it has grown a lot over the last several years, what advice would you give to an aspiring person wanting to start a podcast show?
Advice that I'll give people that want to start a podcast show is mostly find your niche. Find the thing that really makes you connected with talking out in converse, because that converse is your connection to the audience that you're trying to perceive in the podcast.
How did you get so knowledgeable and experienced with doing podcasts?
I'm very familiar with video production and audio production, studio management, and multimedia. I've been doing MC Anime for 3 years. MC Anime is a continuation from the blog, live stream, and podcast all together.
Nice. Now, what would you say has been your biggest challenge with doing either that or podcasts?
I guess making a living from it. You only really in like the top 6%, 9% make a success off of it. So finding that way to make it successful is more of the challenging aspect than starting the podcast, because not everyone takes off, and it's such a low percentage that they all take off.
Understood. And where can they? What's the name of your podcast show so they can tune into it?
Yes, my name of my podcast show is MC Anime Podcast. We cover anime, geek culture, Japanese aesthetics, and Asian studies. It's a multi-fandom podcast about entertainment, live opinions, and overall a good time of Japanese culture with some splashing of Asian studies as well.
And do you do it on a certain day of the week?
I usually try to do uploads Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, depending on those are the 4 days I usually try to put 2 or 3 posts.
Okay, so you're really active and into it. You're not doing it just once a week. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I've been doing it ever since I stopped booking guests. Yeah, ever since I started doing special guest booking, I went like crazy trying to get as fast the special guests on there as much as possible. So it made me do like 4 weeks. So I was like, oh, okay.
As we can start to close out, any final thoughts or closing remarks? Can you hear me okay? It looked like you might have froze a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay, as we close out, any closing remarks or final thoughts?
Well, you can find the podcast at MC Anime on podcasts near you, Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. YouTube will be soon. Patreon community and www.mcanimepodcast.com. I also have services available if you want to hire me for production, consulting, multimedia, graphic design, editing, and more. So that's also something to keep alive.
And before I let you go, let's touch on that a little bit. what would you say your average job of getting hired? So whether it's graphics or if you, it may be case by case, but to give the audience some kind of idea, some of the things that people hire you for and some of the prices that they are.
Well, some of the prices that I run is the production side. So any topic, any interview is divided into 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and 60 minutes. That is $20 for 15, 35 for 30, and then 70 for the 60 minutes. But it also includes any topic, so it can be either special guest or a recording that you want done professional. That also is an option. But that's why it's like that price range, because it's any topic, so it has more work with the idea consulting, script writing, subtitles if you needed, all that stuff.
Awesome. And one more time before you go, please give your social media as well as where they can find your podcast show.
Yes, social media, you can find me on Facebook at Blog MC Anime, Twitter's at Maison Collawn, and then Instagram is at MCMA Podcast, and then YouTube will be also MCMA Podcast. When that gets launched, it's already public, so if you want to subscribe early, you can. I'm getting the content direct to upload for that channel.
Awesome. I'd like to thank you for doing the interview today.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Hold on one second. So this is Walil Archer with the Real Rap Radio Show. We're going to go to a commercial break, and I'll be back on Downtown Hott Radio. All right. We're back. Real Rap Radio Show with your host, Walil Archer. I still have Maison with me. We got a few more things we're going to redirect and talk about. Maison, what's on your mind?
So I'm really interested in what you do on the radio. Like, what is like your program that you do?
Awesome question. My radio show started in 2012. So I'll give you the backstory. Downtown Hott Radio is an radio station. It has over 50 sister radio stations. So if you take like Chicago Hot Radio, which state are you in?
I'm in Virginia. So I'll probably be picking up on the radio app maybe.
I think we may, if we don't have I know we have a DMV Hot Radio, but we may have a Virginia Hot Radio. I'm not sure because I don't know all the stations by heart, but I know we definitely have a DMV Hot Radio. So Downtown Radio has over 50 sister radio stations. So we can always syndicate on those different stations, and I am syndicated on other stations, as well as we have like Spiritual Vibe Radio, Dallas Christian Hot Radio, and other gospel shows.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So my radio show. Oh, good. I'm sorry.
So syndication, is that like a what is syndication? I've heard a lot of times in newspapers and stuff, but like, is it mainstream or is it more like all over the place, broadcast?
Syndication is great. You have two ways of looking at it. I give you the FM and I give you the internet radio. FM does it a lot of times when they in, say, certain sections, they get a dead spot. So they pick up another station. So that's why radio stations sometimes say two stations. They say 94.5 and 107.5. So they picked up on it gives them a more wide range of listenership on the FM side. On the internet, on the internet radio side, which we're internet radio, that puts us on another station. So you may tune into, say, DMV Hot Radio because you want to hear some go-go music. While you're still on there, if you didn't log off, then my show may follow up after the go-go show, and now you're listening to my show as well. Or say if my show is syndicated on one of the gospel shows, you listen to the gospel, and then my show come on after, so that gospel show may come on. So it gives you more ears, it gives you more audience, opposed to just one station.
Because I really like, the personality that goes into radio. I like, the exuberance that you show as a host. Select the songs as if you're the DJ, or, do the talk show and organize it into the platform that you want to discuss, have the audience tune into. It just is really good connection. How would someone like me get into like the radio space? Podcast is similar, but it's not the same.
You're very, very intelligent, by the way. I want you to know that. And actually, with that question, it shows how intelligent you are, because has similarities, but it's not the same because the internet radio is broadcasting. So someone's always on a station, is always on. Podcasting, you have to tune in during that segment if it's live, or you can just go back and listen to it. Internet radio on my show, you tune in while I'm live or you miss it. There's no rewinding, and it's no going back. There's no, I listen to it later.
Yeah.
And you have a couple ways of, if you want to get into say FM, then when they hire, I think it's like Clear Channel or whatever your local stations. What part of Virginia are you in?
I'm in the Richmond metro area, so that's my demographic. Most of the radio stations I listen to is like Light 98, KF, K95, stuff like that.
All right, because I know PSG, that in the DMV area, I know a lot of them stations as well. In Norfolk, I guess you like near Norfolk. That area, I'm not too knowledgeable with the stations, but you would go to whoever's the main hub. So if it's Clear Channel or whatever the Clear hub is, when they have openings, then you just submit, hey, I want to be a radio personality, or see if they have any internships, if you want to do on the FM side. Okay. On the internet radio side, typically if they have any slots, they typically charge you. So maybe a fee to be on there as a guest. I mean, not as a guest, but as a host. And then your guests may pay you, or you get sponsors. So say if you came on downtown radio and you say, hey, I wanted a show. If it's an open spot, they may charge you, say, $25 a week or whatever the fee is. And then your sponsors will pay for your spot. Or like a lot of comedians, a lot of actors, they just pay for their slot. If they get sponsors, they do. If they don't, they don't. But it helps them promote what they have going on.
Okay.
So it's good if you know, in your case, you got good things going on. But someone that doesn't have much going on, then it doesn't really make sense for them just to pay to have a show. But again, if you're a comedian and you got shows coming up, it helps you with your marketing, your promotions.
Okay. So in the radio space, if you pay for a show, what is like the usual cost for it per week, per month?
It varies, and I don't want to misquote, but I give you a basic range.
Okay.
Because you can do a show, say Monday through Friday, which is obviously 5 days a week, versus if you're doing a show Saturdays, or if you're just doing a show on Sunday. So it really depends on how often you're doing your show. Because when you're doing your show, you have an engineer, and they have to edit your show or, put your show together. So whether you're doing it 1 day a week or 5 days a week. But on average, you're looking at $25 if you're doing it, say, on the weekends, roughly.
Okay.
And if you're doing it during the week, which is 5 shows, then you're looking at like 50. So you look at, yeah. That's
is that per show, or is that just for the average week?
That's just average.
Okay. So the paywall is pretty reasonable for people to get into it if they want to do it.
Yes, and the reason is because the goal is to get you to stay. If you come for a month or two, it really wastes everyone's time. So they try to keep it affordable. So even if you don't charge or get sponsors or get advertisers, it's affordable, and it's not nothing that you just get in and get out. Because the goal is to build it and not just have somebody, turn and key with people coming in and going. Okay. But I have somebody reach out to you directly that can really finalize everything. But that's just to get your range.
Okay. So what had, maybe the audience has already heard this from you because you're talking on the show, but how did you start with being on the radio? Like, your personality, I want a show.
You have great questions. I really, truly appreciate that. I really do. In 2012, let me give you backstory. In 2010, I was working with Old School Saturdays are in Atlanta, Georgia. So in 2010, I started working with, or even before that, in 2007 up to like 2010, 2007 up to 2010, I was working with Old School Saturdays. And it's this big organization, and we was having parties once a month. And we would average about 4,000 or 5,000 people each time. And then in 2010, they started supporting A's Walk Atlanta. So 2010, I did A's Walk Atlanta. 2011, I did A's Walk Atlanta. And 2012 just happened to have been the last year they did A's Walk Atlanta. But when I did A's Walk Atlanta in 2012, someone from Downtown Radio reached out to me and said, hey, we'd really like for you to come on and be a guest on a radio show. So I'm like, well, somebody want me to be a guest on a radio show. I'll go, but what I'm gonna talk about? And I had no idea what I was going to talk about. I'm going in here blindly. I don't know why somebody want me to come on the radio, but I said, obviously, I better go. So when I went to go do the interview, I wasn't prepared because I didn't know what it was based about. I didn't know what questions to ask to properly prepare. I just know get there, be dressed up, and be ready. The host that I had was so amazing that she pretty much geared and guided the interview where I really didn't have to do too much talking. So she asked the question, I gave a short answer because I didn't know what I was doing, but she was able to elaborate. So she asked about my children, and I gave a short answer. Oh yeah, because you have 2 children, you have a boy and a girl. And every time she asked me something, I give her a short answer, and she was able to expand on it and then allow me to loosen up like, wow, she really did do some research. And I was very impressed. At that time, they actually had an opening. So, of course, I didn't want to go nowhere because it allowed me to be in radio. And that was in 2012. And I just never left. So, my honest opinion, that's why I always say I got to be ready. So, when people reach out, I'm just ready and I go. And I just go with the good energy. I don't ask a whole bunch of questions. I'm not trying to find a reason not to go. Let me say let's get there and figure out the rest. And fortunately, she was amazing. I'm like, yeah, this is something I could do. Because I do a lot of research. Like if you was a guest and stuff like that, I do a lot of research and I look into stuff. So if somebody gets stuck, I know what questions to ask. Also, you got to know what questions not to ask. That's most important. You got to know what topics to stay off of. You got to know what topics to stay away from. You got to know what not to say. You got to read the body language. You got to see when you're going down a road that they don't want to talk about, you got to pick up on that. Don't keep going. And I have had a lot of female hosts, and they was great, but they was kind of messy. You want to get that messiness. And I don't like that. I like a clean show where, like you said during your show, family friendly. I want mine's good spirit. I want people when they leave, yeah, I really enjoyed myself. Not, he just brought up my trauma. Now he brought up something I'm fighting with in my demons. So that's more about my show and how I got started. And I still love it like I just started. Still love it like I just started. And that was 10 years ago.
Well, I hope the audience can appreciate this little segment about getting to know you a little bit with Downtown Radio. And I hope it goes really good for you. Thank you for letting me be here. I already had my promotion, so now you had your promotion. So it's like a split 2 sections of the show.
Awesome. You're amazing. I got to stress that you are amazing. Much success. And I'm very proud of you. I interview a lot of people. And I'm very proud of you for you doing such a short time to be where you are. Very impressive, sir. Very impressive.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And one more time before we go, where can they find you at on social media? Where can they find your show?
An MC Anime Podcast. Facebook is Blog MC Anime. Twitter is Maison Collawn. That's the handle. Instagram is also MC Anime Podcast. YouTube has been created. No content yet, so if you want to subscribe there, you can. I'm getting old videos converted from MP3 to MP4 with reactive images to make it interactive. We're also on Patreon at Blog MC Anime, and you can follow us on www.mcanimepodcast.com. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Much success. Much success.
Bye, guys.
So I'd like to thank you guys for listening to the Real Rap Radio Show with your host, Walil Archer, and my amazing special guest, Mason. And we'll talk to you guys and listen to us next time on the Real Rap Radio Show with Walil Archer on Downtown Hott Radio.
Bye, guys.